The sea was quiet that dawn, as if listening to a secret it could not keep. Simon Peter's heart beat harder than the waves beneath his boat. He had followed the voice of a man who spoke of heaven as though it were within reach. Yet tonight, beneath the trembling stars, doubt whispered louder than faith. Could this man truly be the Son of God, or only the dream of weary fishermen? Peter had seen the blind see, the dead rise, yet something in his chest trembled with fear of what belief would cost. If forgiveness heals the soul, why does guilt feel so divine? The sky began to pale with the coming sun, and in its pale light, Peter's faith flickered like a candle caught in wind. Behind him, footsteps approached, soft, knowing, inevitable. He turned toward that familiar voice that would soon test the truth in his heart. Later that night, by the glow of a small fire, Peter listens to Jesus speak of the kingdom. The words fall like seeds, but Peter's thoughts drift. He wants to believe in forever, yet his heart fears the cost of standing beside divinity. As laughter fades, the night thickens with unease. Jesus speaks of betrayal, of testing, of denial, and his eyes rest on Peter. The sound of crackling wood drowns the silence that follows. The firelight flickers over Peter's uneasy smile. The others do not notice his trembling hand. Deep inside, something fragile begins to break. Morning returns with laughter and nets full of fish. The miracle fills the air with joy, but beneath Peter's smile, a storm stirs. He looks at Jesus and feels both unworthy and chosen. The sea he once mastered now feels like an ocean of judgment. When Jesus calls him the Rock, Peter forces a grin, hiding the tremor in his soul. What if he cannot bear the weight of that name? In a quiet corner of the village, Mary finds Peter alone, mending his nets. She sees in him a man trying to weave faith from fear. "You trust him," she says softly. "But do you trust yourself?" Peter looks away, ashamed. The sun sets behind them, painting their shadows long and uncertain. That night under the moon, the disciples gather for what will be their final meal together. Jesus blesses the bread and breaks it. Peter watches, his heart swelling with unspoken dread. When Jesus says, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter shakes his head fiercely, voice breaking. "Never, Lord." But the words sound hollow even to him. A silence falls, heavy, holy, and unchangeable. The night air feels alive in Gethsemane, heavy, damp, and waiting. Jesus kneels among the olive trees, his voice low, trembling with the weight of what is to come. Peter stands a few steps behind, sword hidden beneath his cloak, heart pounding against his ribs. The others sleep, but he cannot. He watches Jesus' silhouette bend in prayer, and something sacred in that surrender terrifies him. He wants to be brave, but every shadow seems to whisper his weakness. When Jesus turns and whispers, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak," Peter's eyes burn. He wishes he could fight heaven itself just to prove his love. The sound of boots breaks the stillness. Roman soldiers with torches and iron glinting through olive branches. Peter's hand tightens on his sword. Jesus steps forward calmly, unarmed, unafraid. Judas' kiss lands like a wound upon the world. Rage erupts in Peter's chest. He lunges forward, striking at a soldier. The sound of metal, of breath, of betrayal fills the garden. Jesus' hand catches Peter's wrist mid-swing, his eyes filled not with anger but sorrow. "Put away your sword," he says, and with a touch heals the man Peter struck. In that single act, Peter feels his courage unravel into confusion. The soldiers bind Jesus with coarse rope. Peter steps back, chest heaving. The night feels smaller now, colder. His sword lies forgotten in the dirt. Jesus looks at him once, not with blame, but with sorrow that pierces deeper than any wound. Peter wants to follow, to shout, to run. but his voice fails him. When they lead Jesus away, Peter stands frozen among fallen branches and torn leaves, his courage scattered like dust at his feet. They drag Jesus toward the city gates. Peter follows at a distance, heart hammering in his throat. Every step feels like betrayal, every breath like a confession he cannot speak. From the walls, faint shouts echo. He can see the glow of fires where the priests wait. When he hides behind a stone archway, he sees Jesus glance back once. The look of a man who still loves him despite the fear. The moment sears into Peter's soul like light burned into film. As dawn threatens the horizon, Peter stops in a dark alley breathless. His palms are dirty, his tunic torn. He looks at the blood drying on his hands. Not his own, but from the man he struck. The world feels unreal, like a dream breaking open. He remembers Jesus' words, "Before the rooster crows," and the echo rings like prophecy. Somewhere in the distance, the rooster stirs. Peter sinks to his knees, the weight of what's coming pressing down upon him. He cannot yet name it, but the night has already begun to judge him. The courtyard behind the high priest's house burns with the light of torches. The air smells of smoke and damp stone. Peter slips inside among the servants, his cloak drawn tight, his eyes searching for a glimpse of Jesus. From within the hall comes the sound of accusation. The priest's voice is sharp, cutting through the night. He cannot leave. Yet every second feels like a trap closing. When a servant girl stares at him, head tilted, Peter's pulse quickens. "You were with him," she whispers. Peter shakes his head, his voice raw. "I don't know him. The lie tastes like ash." Somewhere deep in the hall, a door closes, and the sound echoes like a heartbeat stopping. Minutes stretch like hours. The night deepens, the torches hiss in the rain. Another voice, a man's this time, calls from across the courtyard. "Aren't you one of his followers?" Peter forces a laugh, shaking his head. The sound comes out hollow, broken. His hands tremble as he moves closer to the fire, hoping its warmth will chase away the cold clawing his heart. A drop of rain slides down his cheek, indistinguishable from a tear. Above, thunder murmurs softly, as though heaven itself grieves. The rooster stirs once, restless, though dawn has not yet come. A woman by the fire looks at Peter again, her brow furrowed. "Your accent, Galilean. You were with him." Panic surges through him like a wave. He steps back, voice cracking. "I swear, I don't know the man." The words burst out, louder than he meant, carrying into the night. A hush falls across the courtyard. Even the rain seems to pause. From inside, a faint cry is heard, the sound of pain, or prayer, or both. Then it happens, the final denial. A soldier, the same Peter had struck in the garden, steps forward, his voice calm but cold. "Did I not see you in Gethsemane?" The world narrows to a single breath. Peter's heart stops. His voice breaks through the storm. "I do not know him." And at that very instant, the rooster crows, a sound so small, yet it tears the night apart. The door to the hall opens. Jesus is led through, his eyes meeting Peter's. No anger, no surprise, only sorrow. Pure, wordless, eternal. Peter's breath shatters. The sound of that cry will haunt him for the rest of his life. Peter stumbles from the courtyard, his cloak clinging to him like guilt. The rain has stopped, but his chest feels flooded. He collapses against a wall, gasping, his breath breaking into sobs. The world blurs. Faces, stones, sky, all dissolving into his tears. He remembers Jesus' words, spoken with such quiet certainty, and realizes they were not a curse, but a prophecy of grace. The dawn rises pale and unforgiving, painting his face with light that feels like judgment. He presses his forehead to the cold ground and weeps, whispering again and again, "I don't know him," until the words turn into a cry for forgiveness. The city sleeps under pale daylight, unaware of the man hiding among its shadows. Peter moves through narrow alleys, cloak-soaked, eyes hollow. He finds refuge in a deserted courtyard where the echo of his own voice haunts him. Each stone seems to whisper his denial. He remembers the gaze of Jesus, not angry, not condemning, and that memory burns hotter than any punishment. He wants to pray, but words refuse to form. Guilt has taken the place where faith once lived. The silence feels alive, pressing against him like the weight of heaven itself. Days pass. Peter hides in an old storage room near the outskirts of the city. He cannot bear to see the others, cannot bear their faith. Every sound of laughter, every prayer, cuts like a blade. He stares at his rough hands, remembering how they once caught miracles, fish rising where there were none, a man walking on water. Now, they tremble like those of a sinner awaiting judgment. He whispers Jesus' name again and again, as if repetition could undo the truth. But silence always answers back. Outside, the city rumbles with news. A trial, a sentence, a hill called Golgotha. Peter listens from afar, each word striking him like a lash. He cannot bring himself to go. He hears Mary's cry echoing from the street and covers his ears. His denial now feels eternal, carved into his soul. Yet beneath the torment, something flickers, a fragile thought that refuses to die. If he loved even the ones who crucified him, could he still love me? The question terrifies him, but it also keeps him breathing. Night falls again. Peter walks to the edge of the city where the sea wind reaches him. He sits on a broken wall, watching stars tremble above the waves. He remembers his voice. "You are the rock." The irony cuts deep. Rocks do not tremble, do not flee. Yet here he is, shaking beneath the same sky that once held their miracles. A single tear falls, and he whispers, "I was never the rock. I was only sand." The waves crash against the shore as if to answer him, washing away every sound but one, his own breathing, soft and fragile. At dawn, Mary finds him. She moves toward him slowly, as one approaches a wounded creature. Her face is pale from tears, but her eyes hold quiet strength. She kneels beside him without speaking. Peter tries to turn away, but she takes his hand. "He forgave you before you fell," she whispers. The words pierce through the fog in his heart. For the first time, Peter's sobs soften into stillness. He doesn't yet believe, but the wall around his heart begins to crack. In the silence, something holy stirs. Not peace yet, but the faint sound of mercy returning. The third morning dawns over Jerusalem in a hush that feels almost sacred. Peter wakes to frantic knocking, Mary's voice breaking through his dreams. "I've taken him," she cries, breathless, radiant with confusion. For a moment, Peter cannot move. His heart is still chained to sorrow. But something in her eyes, a light he hasn't seen since before the cross, pulls him to his feet. They run through the narrow streets, sandals striking stone, dust rising in golden air. Hope and fear race within him, equal and wild. Could it be true? Could love outlive death? The garden near the tomb is quiet, except for the rustle of olive leaves. Peter and John arrive breathless, hearts pounding. The stone is rolled away. For a moment, neither speaks. Peter steps forward, trembling, afraid of what he might find, or not find. He kneels and looks inside. The linen cloth lies folded, untouched by decay, glowing softly in the dim light. The air feels alive, charged with something unseen. Peter's breath catches. "He's not here," John whispers. And though fear still lingers, the first flicker of belief warms Peter's chest like sunrise breaking through fog. Mary remains behind after the others leave. Peter watches her through the olive trees as she falls to her knees, sobbing softly. Then he sees her freeze. Still as stone, a voice speaks her name, and she turns, trembling. Her face changes from grief to glory. Peter cannot hear the words, but he feels them in his soul. When she rises and runs toward them, shouting, "I have seen him!" Peter's heart falters. He wants to believe. He fears to hope. Yet something in him stirs. Not reason, not proof, but love resurrecting itself. Later, Peter sits alone by the tomb's entrance, his hands shaking. He cannot comprehend it. The emptiness that feels full, the absence that feels alive. The memory of his denial rises again, sharp as glass, yet something new surrounds it, a stillness that doesn't condemn. For the first time since that night, he whispers a prayer without fear. "If you still want me," he breathes, "I'm yours." And as wind stirs the grass, it feels as though the world exhales with him. That evening, Peter joins the others in a small upper room. The door is bolted, fear still heavy among them. Then, without sound or warning, he stands there. Jesus, radiant, calm, alive. His voice breaks the air like light through storm clouds. "Peace be with you." Peter's knees weaken. He cannot speak. The world tilts, and tears blur his vision. Jesus' eyes meet his. No reproach, only love unbroken. Peter covers his face, sobbing, and for the first time, his tears are not of shame, but of wonder. The days after the resurrection feel unreal. Hope and disbelief blending like dawn mist. Peter returns to the sea, to the work he understands. Night after night, the nets come back empty. The others fish beside him, silent, weary. The water mirrors the stars, but his heart feels hollow. Then, in the pale shimmer of morning, a voice calls from the shore. "Children, have you caught anything?" The tone, gentle, familiar, piercing through the distance. Peter freezes. He knows that voice. John leans forward, squinting through the morning haze. "It is the Lord," he whispers. The words strike Peter like lightning. Without thought, he throws off his cloak, dives into the sea, and swims hard toward the shore. The water burns cold, but his chest burns hotter. Not with fear this time, but longing. Every stroke feels like repentance, every breath like prayer. Behind him, the others pull the net heavy with fish, but Peter reaches the sand first, falling to his knees before the firelight flickering on the beach. By the fire, the smell of roasted fish fills the air. Jesus gestures for them to sit. Peter cannot meet his eyes. Every flicker of flame reminds him of that other fire, the courtyard, the denial, the rooster's cry. Jesus breaks bread and offers it to him, the same way he had before the end began. Peter's hand trembles as he takes it. No words are spoken, but the silence itself feels holy, like forgiveness breathing between them. After breakfast, Jesus stands and looks toward the water. "Simon, son of Jonah," he says softly, "do you love me more than these?" Peter's throat tightens. "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." Jesus nods. "I steady, feed my lambs." The words fall like rain on parched ground. Again and again, the question returns. 3 times, echoing each denial. Each answer rebuilds what shame had broken. When it is done, Peter is trembling not with guilt but grace. His heart feels new, cleansed not by forgetting, but by being seen and still loved. When the others drift back to the boat, Peter remains. The tide rolls in softly, touching his feet. He stares at the footprints beside him, then looks up. Jesus is gone. Yet somehow, Peter feels less alone than ever. The waves whisper his words again. "Follow me." He smiles for the first time in what feels like forever. The sea reflects the rising sun, endless, merciful, alive. Years have passed. The sea that once mirrored Peter's doubt now lives only in his memory, Rome stretches around him, vast, merciless, glittering with idols. Peter, now an old man, preaches in secret rooms, his voice roughened by age but still burning with conviction. He tells them of forgiveness, of love, stronger than fear. He never speaks of the night of denial, but those who listen can hear it between every word. Faith, he tells them, is not certainty. It is the courage to return when you fail. Outside, thunder rolls. Or perhaps it is the marching of soldiers. One night, as Peter prays, Mary Magdalene visits him in a dream, not as he remembers her, but radiant, free of time. She tells him that the work is done, that the seed planted in pain has become a garden of faith. He listens, tears glistening on his cheeks. Was I ever worthy? He asks. She smiles. You were loved. That was enough. When he wakes, the dawn over Rome glows faintly rose, the same color as Galilee long ago. He rises, heart steady, ready for what must come. The soldiers come quietly at dawn. Peter does not resist. As they lead him through the streets, people watch in silence. Some weep, some turn away. He feels no anger, no fear. His steps are slow, steady. The rhythm of acceptance. At the hill's base, he looks toward the sky, pale with mourning. He remembers another hill, another cross. I am not worthy to die as he did, he says softly. The centurion hesitates, struck by the calm of the old fisherman. They reach the place of execution. A rough wooden cross stands ready. Peter looks upon it, then to the sky. His eyes close as he whispers a prayer. Thank you for turning my failure into faith. He asks to be crucified upside down, for he cannot bear to die in the same way as his Lord. The soldiers obey, confused but moved. As they raise the cross, the world tilts, heaven and earth trading places. In his final breath, Peter feels the sea again, the warmth of that voice calling him once more. Follow me. The years pass. The world changes. But the story of the man who denied and believed, who fell and rose again, lives on. In every church built, in every whispered prayer, his name becomes stone, not of pride, but of surrender. The sea still remembers him. The waves still echo his laughter. If forgiveness was once his cross, now it is his crown. Faith, after all, was never about never falling. It was about rising and building upon the very place you broke.